Hello, I am Joshua P. Warren, and this is Joshua P. Warren Daily. And I released some interesting little videos over the past few days that I think you will find interesting. And I want to tell you a little bit more about those videos. I'm not going to be redundant, though, and just tell you the same information you get from watching the videos. But sometimes I think you really need to see a visual. And so before I get into that, I I got an email today with one of the weirdest stories anybody has ever sent to me. And I'm sure you understand the significance of me saying that because every single day people are sending me wild stories about wild experiences. And this one came from a man in Wisconsin, where of course we filmed the movie Wishmasters, and he took two of my sigils, the money sigil and the ghost sigil, and he put them together. And what happened to him is so wild, it kind of makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. And not only did he give me the detailed story, but he has all kinds of documentation to prove what happened. Now, I just want to let you know that last night I was a guest on the Leak Project show, and of course, Leak Project is hosted by Rex Bear, and his show is one of those deals where he interviews you while you are sitting in front of a webcam. So it's like a TV interview. And I don't usually do that for a number of reasons. Because I'm traveling a lot, my schedule's weird, and I go into places that have restricted access, and you're not supposed to use a camera. But one of the biggest reasons is that personally, I just have trouble sitting still, just sort of sitting down in front of a camera and having to stay on frame there and talk for 2 hours. Like for example, when I'm doing this podcast, I'm pacing around, and there's just a lot of energy flowing here. So I did, however, make an exception for this program, Leak Project. For one thing, I've heard a lot of great things about it. It's been around quite a while. He's interviewed some of my favorite people, people like Nick Redfern, and I know Stanton Friedman was on there. There's a long list of people who have been on the show. And he has over 330,000 YouTube subscribers. And that's just part of his audience. So last night, I sat down in front of a webcam for 2 hours. I was actually there over 2 hours if you want to include like getting a little prepared before and chatting a little after. But 2 solid hours of conversation without any kind of a break, no commercials. So the thing was, it really flew by very, very quickly. And I mean, that is the sign of a great conversation. And we got into just everything you can imagine. I mean, Rex has a mind like mine. He just sort of is interested in all of the weird stuff in the world and how it all might connect. And so we went on quite a mental journey for 2 hours last night. And it's posted already if you haven't seen this. You can sit there and watch it like a TV show, or you could just listen to the audio from it. But if you just go to YouTube and just do a search for Leak Project, you'll find it there. It's of course the latest one. At least it was last I looked. And there's a picture of me there and some of the topics. So anyway, while I was on the show, and of course this was being broadcast live on YouTube, Rex was actually looking at a live chat. All these people are making comments. And one guy had made a comment that he had combined some of my sigils and some amazing stuff happened, and he wanted to let me know about it. And I was like, cool. So anyway, this guy emailed me today and told me this whole story and showed me news clips and screenshots and all kinds of stuff to back up his story. And yet there's even more to it. And it's now think about that. What do you believe might happen if you were to take the money sigil and the ghost sigil and put them together? It makes you scratch your head, doesn't it? Well, let me just tell you that it does involve two things that you would expect. It involves a lot of good luck and money and amazing synchronicity, but it also involves the discovery of a dead body. Okay? Now, the thing is, I'm going to be a terrible tease here because that's all I'm going to tell you for now. Because I have invited this man to come on to this podcast and tell this story in his own words, because it's a long story. And there are synchronicities that he doesn't even know about, that I see in his story, that I haven't had a chance to tell him about. This is one of those things, like when you're watching some documentary or some special about, usually it's true crime or something, and the story just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder and just keeps taking all these twists and turns. This is kind of like what happened when this guy did this. So that's all I'm going to tell you for now. But apparently he has been looking for an opportunity to sort of fill me in on what occurred when he did this to him and to other people around him. And so last night was, he seeing me on that show gave him, the motivation to go ahead and sort of explain all this to me. So I got right back to him and said, yeah, we've got to document this for my audience. Everybody's got to hear what happened. So I tell you this so that you have something to look forward to. I have a really busy week ahead of me, and I don't know how much I'm going to be able to record, but as soon as I can, as soon as he's available, we're going to have a conversation and tell you this story. You want to make sure that you don't miss that. So just keep in mind, if you are not a subscriber to this podcast, well, you should be. If you go to joshuapwarren.com and click the link to this podcast called Joshua P. Warren Daily, you'll find you can subscribe through all kinds of different platforms. I forget all the different ways. I know you can listen on like Stitcher and iHeart and Apple and all. But if you don't really have a regular platform you follow, well, you can just follow me on Twitter at Joshua P. Warren, at Joshua P. Warren. And you can even set up your phone so that every time I send a tweet, and only I send a tweet, if you just follow me, you'll get a text message and it'll say, oh, there's a new podcast or whatever else that I tweet out there. So these are ways that you can stay updated and sort of follow the progress of the show. So that's coming soon, something to look forward to, I promise you. Getting back to Twitter, though, and my YouTube channel, sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just have some ideas for some interesting videos that I want to shoot, and they're usually short, and I'll film them, and I'll just knock out 2 or 3 of them in a day, and then when I get around to it, I'll edit one and post it. Because, again, some things I think make more of an impact when you do have a visual element there. And so one of the videos that you'll find on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Joshua P. Warren, or again, if you follow me on Twitter or you go to my Twitter page, you'll see I've posted it there if you scroll down and look at my recent stuff. It is about my acquisition of a $100 trillion bill. And I'm actually holding this in my hands right now. And this is not a joke. This is to my knowledge, the highest denomination bill that has ever been issued by a world government, okay, by a nation. And it was issued by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. And this particular bill says 2008, and it's actually a very nicely made bill. You would hope so, wouldn't you? It's thick paper. It's got some special protection, layers of protection on it, some little illusions and holograms, and looks like there's a strip in it, and all the kind of stuff you would expect from a $100 trillion bill. On one side of it, there is a stack of three big rocks, which must have some type of profound meaning in Zimbabwe. And then on the back, looks like there's a picture of a waterfall next to a water buffalo. And which this is neither here nor there, but recently I was reading about how that some people don't like the fact that in the United States or in North America, we call things running around buffalo. They're bison. And buffalo is kind of like a slang term for the American bison. And they say that if you look at real buffaloes, like a water buffalo here, they don't have all the hair, all the shaggy build and the big shaggy beard and everything like a bison does. So I guess you can technically you can call them bison or buffalo, but I think if you really want to be specific, you should talk about bison in this country. But anyway, let's get back to the $100 trillion bill. So when I heard that this was issued, I immediately knew, like, well, I got to have one of those things. And the good news is, at least if you want to attain one of these, the good news is, the $100 trillion bill, which is no longer, this is no longer legitimate currency. When it came out in Zimbabwe, they say that it would not buy you a loaf of bread. It was in fact worth less than $1 US dollar. And yet it's a legitimate piece of currency for $100 trillion. Now, I'm not going to give you an economics lesson and talk about inflation and all that, but I think that this is a wonderful representation of something that I've talked about many times before, and I'm going to touch upon again here right now. And that is the fact that some people who struggle getting money are struggling because that they are focusing on the wrong thing. So if you're focusing on a piece of paper or a coin, well, that's not really money. Even if you're focusing on a piece of gold or silver, that's not really even money either. All these things are representations of relationships, because money comes from one place, and that's other people. Money is an expression of gratitude, and that's what it's meant to be. And it makes it very clear when you see something like this. I paid $27 US dollars for this bill, and that's just because it's a collector's novelty. Far less than $100 trillion. But I love this because it's just such a perfect example of what I'm saying about what money really is. And if you have this image in your mind of money being the Benjamins making it rain, how fat your wallet is and all that, then that stuff is not, you're going to run out really fast if that's what you think money is. You have to think of money as being an exchange of energy, and what type of energy that people value. And that's why you've heard me say this before. It's a great tip for you to always carry a piece of foreign currency in your pocket, whether it's a coin or a bill. Like this would be a great one to carry in your wallet. But if you carry a piece of foreign currency, it could be something like, even in the US, maybe something from Canada or Mexico. I mean, whatever, just something that looks weird to you, that doesn't look like real money, but is considered real money in some places. I mean, like you probably would want to carry a Monopoly bill with you because nobody really thinks of that as real money. But carry something that is considered real money in another place, and that way, every time you look at it, it reminds you of what money actually is. It kind of breaks you out of, that hypnotized state that you get in just focusing on the representation of money. And when you're reminded about what money is, that it's a flow of energy, well, then all of a sudden you start behaving a little differently and thinking about money a little differently. And before you know it, variables in your life and how you act and behave start to alter. And suddenly your foreign money starts attracting a lot more of your local money. That's funny how it works. One thing that I love to do though with this type of money magic, because that's what this is. Magic is just based upon taking your mind and putting it in the appropriate state so that you can sort of transmit your will out there to affect the physical reality. That's ultimately sort of what magic is. And when I got this thing, I shot the video, and now guess what I've done? I've put it on a wishing machine. And I have a wishing machine in front of me right now, which has a variety of symbols of wealth and prosperity. And frankly, they're all kind of personal to me. So I don't want to tell you exactly what I have on my prosperity machine that I keep running. But this is now one of the things that's certainly on it, the $1 trillion bill. I'm going to put it back on there right now. And so if you get something like that, that reminds you of what money and prosperity really is from a financial point of view, then again, carry it in your pocket as a reminder, and or put it on the input plate of a wishing machine and project that to you. And you'll find that it also it helps to supercharge the amount of positive financial energy that comes into your life. So that's one thing I wanted to reiterate for you. But here's the second thing I want to tell you about this sort of concept behind money magic. And this is a lot more practical. And I especially want you to listen to this if you're having a hard time right now, if you're struggling right now. Because if you are having a problem getting the money that you need, then that is actually a very valuable situation for you to be in. And I know you're thinking, huh? Not following you here, Mr. Warren. Okay, well, here's what I'm saying. The main way to make money in our world is to solve a problem. And because that's, people are happy to pay to solve a problem. And the thing is, there are very practical problems that need to be solved every day. Like, I need to eat something. I am not a farmer. I am not a rancher. I have to pay somebody to eat something. That's a problem that needs to be solved. And it's fortunately in this country, it's a pretty easy problem for us to solve. But still, unless you're out there growing your own food, or you're out there, like I say, ranching, or you're scavenging, or doing, you need money in order to solve that problem. That's a very practical problem. Same thing with water, right? With liquid, with shelter. You have all these basic fundamental needs to be met, and those are all problems. And then from there, it extends to other problems that you may have, like, shit, my car broke down, and I don't have a big check coming in to pay for this repair bill. How do I get this fixed? If you find somebody who can go in and fix that problem for you, you'll be happy to pay whatever you can. And you can go down this list of things that are very practical things, but here's where it becomes very interesting, is that there are other types of problems that you can solve for people that aren't so rooted into your physical survival. So, for example, I need entertainment. Okay, that's a problem. I need good entertainment. And that may seem silly to you, but it takes us back to that biblical quote, right? That man cannot live by bread alone. Well, what does that mean? Because actually, humans can live by bread alone. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's possible. We could put you in a cage and feed you and water you, and you will stay alive for maybe 80 years. We could physically keep you alive if that was our only goal. You may not be in a very good mood. It's not going to do much for you, but we can keep your ass alive. We can even knock you out, put you in some kind of like a cryogenic or a coma-like state or whatever, and just keep you alive if that's what we want to do. man cannot live by bread alone. We're talking about the fact that it's not about living, it's about making life worth living. And so sometimes things that you do, like for example, playing music or making a movie or painting something or sculpting something or making a fountain or giving somebody a massage or taking a great picture. I mean, like, these are things that, yeah, you can get by without these things in your life. But your life is better if you have these things. That's why, if you enjoy learning, you're a curious person, you like to read books and watch documentaries or listen to music or invent things. I mean, like, these are all things that enrich your life experience and make it worthwhile for you to live. These are problems that certain people need to be solved. Like, for example, you know, let's say that let's say I love a comedy, right? Well, I don't have the time to go out and make my own comedy every day, but I go to the theater and I pay sometimes a hell of a lot of money by the time all's said and done, and I'm sitting there like, I hope I solve this problem. I hope that this person has created an entertaining comedy for me. So you have to open your mind about what a problem is. And the great thing is, if right now you are having a problem getting money, then there's a very good chance that you have a long list of problems that you know about. You see, it's like you can't solve a problem for somebody unless you're aware that the problem exists in the first place. So if you have somebody who is, born into riches, and that person has never had to even really go out and, work a day, has always had everything provided, that person is unaware of what problems need to be solved. But if you've been exposed to problems your whole life, well, guess what? You're an expert on problems. And if you're an expert on problems, that means, well, you now can be an expert on problem solving. So, write down a list of all the problems that you can think of in the world that you have. And then look at any of those problems and say, is there anything that I can do to help solve this problem? You don't even have to be the main problem solver. I mean, let's go back to an auto mechanic. Let's say there's an auto mechanic, and this guy, he knows how to go in and fix your car. But he can't do that unless he has a part. And you may not know how to go and fix a car, but you know how to make this part that this guy needs, right? So if you can just contribute in any way whatsoever toward the solving of a problem, even if you're just a piece of that solution, then guess what? Now you have created value for yourself. Now you have created utility, something useful. And you know how you've heard that old saying, just do something you love and the money will come? Well, actually, I got some bad news for you. That works sometimes, but more realistically, here's what the adage should be. Do something you're good at and the money will come. All right. So what you want to try to do is find a balance of something that you're good at and something that you don't hate. And if you can find something you're good at and that you don't hate that contributes to the solution of a problem, you have value. And now all you have to do is demonstrate that value to somebody who will recognize it, because they're also in the problem solving business. So look, that's a very practical tip. And the stuff that I talk about, I hope you realize it's not just some kind of like woo woo, just all out there abstract shit. No, I realize that that's where you have to go mentally to get on the right vibration. But at the end of the day, you've got to have strategy involved and practical tips. And so That's something that I enjoy sharing with you. Practical tips, practical advice that you can put into action, put into motion. So anyway, if you want to see this $100 trillion bill and think a little bit more about this concept, well, I've told you how to do it. Just go into Joshua P. Warren on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or just go to the link I recently posted on Twitter. Second thing I posted, and this is something I'm not going to talk nearly as much about this because this is really hard to describe, but I posted a video saying something like perpetual motion with a question mark, pretty close or something like that. I can't remember how I titled it. And look, I have been fascinated by the concept of perpetual motion machines my whole life, and people have been trying to make one for, I'm sure, thousands of years, and I don't believe that you can do it. I hate to say anything's impossible, but I think that we can't do it because of how we define what a perpetual motion machine is. It violates some of the laws of thermodynamics, and basically everything I've learned and everything everybody's learned indicates that energy has to come from somewhere to get something done. And that's a pretty stringent definition. And so anything you create which doesn't just somehow manifest energy out of nothing cannot be a perpetual motion machine. But that said, there are such things as virtual perpetual motion machines. Before I even get into that, there is such a thing as perpetual motion, they say, on the quantum level. But I'm not even going to try to get into that. But as far as a perpetual motion machine, virtual perpetual motion, that's just a term that I came up with. But to me, that means it's not really going to be a machine that's going to run forever once you turn it on, but pretty damn close. So like a solar panel would be a virtual perpetual motion machine, because as long as the sun is rising and it's exposed to the sun, that thing's going to work until it wears out someday, which all machines have to wear out. But like a water wheel, a windmill, like all this kind of stuff that taps into Mother Nature, I would think of as a virtual perpetual motion. Like once you set it up, if you maintain it and it's exposed to Mother Nature, it's going to run the rest of your life. Okay. And one day, I think there's going to be some way we're going to take gyroscopes and anchor them into the Earth somehow and figure out how to turn the spinning of the Earth into some type of a perpetually spinning device. I don't know exactly how to do that, but that makes sense to me that will happen. So the second video that I posted, and again, you're better off just watching the video rather than even having me talk about it, so I'll make this fast. Years ago, many years ago, I got one of these devices called a magnetic levitating desk toy. And essentially, it kind of looks like a cylinder that is placed horizontally onto a little stand. And there are obviously magnets inside the cylinder and magnets on the stand. So when you take your hand off of it, it's levitating. The cylinder is levitating. And the only point of connection is the end of it, where there's like a little needle point that's sitting on a piece of plastic. And then you can spin it. And when you spin it, this thing will spin and spin. I mean, it'll spin for a long ass time because you're dealing with such little friction. All you have really is air resistance and then that little point of friction on the tip. So it's just a toy. You spin it and it seems to be super efficient. And there's an engineer who and gosh, maybe I should look up his name. I can't remember his name right now, but I may as well give it out here because he deserves some props. There was an inventor named Larry Spring. I don't really know anything about him. I can't tell you if he's still with us or not. But Larry Spring had a workshop in Mendocino, California, which is on the coast of California, and he created this thing called the Mendocino motor, which is very, very similar. Take what I just described to you, like a shaft that is floating, levitating horizontally. But this one has solar panels on it. And so when you spin it, the solar panel that's facing the light sends a current to a coil on the opposite side of the little shaft. And when a current goes through a coil, the coil acts like a magnet, and it pushes away from the magnet next to it and pushes it around to the next solar panel where it does the same thing. So this whole thing has got solar panels and coils, and once you get it spinning, I mean, it spins forever until you turn the lights out. And I mean, and it spins fast. It spins really fast. I mean, like, and you don't need bright sunlight. I mean, I just turn on a lamp. You can just blow on the thing and it'll just start spinning, and it will spin until the lights are turned off. And then when you turn the light on again, blow on that thing, it starts spinning. You might not even need to blow on it. It may be, if it just sits there, eventually the earth's going to vibrate, a big truck's going to roll by, a breeze is going to come through, whatever, and it's going to get this thing rolling again. And so I demonstrate this, and what an interesting idea it is. But then I also compare it to the Crookes radiometer, which you've probably seen before, which kind of looks like a light bulb that has these little, they look like little metal flags on a spindle inside that are black and white. And when you hold this light bulb, especially in the sun, it starts spinning. But there are some significant problems with understanding how it works, because this was invented in the 1800s by Sir William Crookes, who was a great English scientist. And at first they thought that this would spin when you put it in light because photons were bouncing off of it. But now they say, well, no, they think it's heat that does it. But the problem is, when I experiment with it, I can't get it to spin much when I just heat it up. But I expose it to certain lights and it'll spin faster or slower depending on the type of light. So you just have to see me demonstrate this. But I think there are some other questions that we must answer about why these things spin, why the Crookes radiometer spins. And there may be some other property that's helping this thing spin that we have not understood yet. And if we do understand it, we might be able to tap into that and produce something really efficient that will give us all something much closer to free energy. So I hope you'll watch that video. Again, the first one is just called, something like $100 trillion bill, and the other one is Perpetual motion. But if you just go to YouTube and type in Joshua P. Warren, you'll see it's some of the most recent stuff that I posted. And I think you'll enjoy those videos. They're short, and a lot of people have watched them already and enjoyed them. So go there and check them out if you like. Remember, though, in general, and this goes back to sort of energy and how it manifests. And what I tell people all the time about psionic tools that I'm creating, or like the conference that I'm producing. And I know there are people out there who are saying, gosh, I want to make that leap, and I want to do something, but I'm just afraid. I'm afraid this could be a scam, or I'm afraid that I'm going to look stupid and my friends are going to think I'm a nut, or I'm afraid that I just really can't afford to do this or that. Let me tell you, that's good. That's good for you to feel that way, because listen to this. If it doesn't scare you a little, you're not making any progress. Remember that. That's why people talk about taking a leap of faith. And that's why, if you're bodybuilding, if you're lifting a weight that's not hurting your muscles, guess what? They're not getting any bigger. You're not giving them any, you're not pushing them to grow. Mind and body are connected. Same thing. If you're not pushing your mind into risky territory that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, well, guess what? You're not going to grow. You're going to stay right where you are. So everything we learn about energy tells us that. And that's another reason that I really hope that you'll come to my event in May. You know what? Karen Rontowski Karen Rontowski, she's a friend of mine. She is a stand-up comedian, and she is hilarious. And I swear to you, I would not say that just because I like her. Because I actually came into contact with her before I heard her comedy, and I was scared to death that I was going to hear the comedy and think it sucked, and then I was going to have to be like, yeah, yeah, that was great, because I wouldn't want to hurt her feelings. But it's actually really, really hilarious. And Lauren feels the same way. I have played some of Karen Rontowski's comedy on this podcast before. And one of the cool things is that, yes, she's a successful mainstream stand up who's been on big shows, like she was on, like Late Night with David Letterman, all the late night stuff. But what really discerns her from everybody else is that she is a paranormal, metaphysical enthusiast. And so a good chunk of her comedy is paranormal comedy and metaphysical comedy. And she can be talking about ghosts or crystal healing or getting a tarot reading or whatever. And she finds like a really hilarious way of putting a spin on it. And that's because, yes, she does stand up, but she also does tarot readings. And I think she's even written a book, and she has a podcast. And so anyway, she's just a really special sort of type of comedian. I don't know anybody else who's able to make the paranormal as entertaining as she is. She really needs to be the host of a TV show. And in fact, maybe I can help her make that happen. I think I might. I think I might do that. I think I might do that. Anyway, occasionally she comes here to Las Vegas and performs, and she is going to be here all this week. She's performing tonight at the MGM Grand and Brad Garrett's Comedy Club, and she'll be here all week in Vegas. I think that her last night is March the 1st. So I'll just give you a little information. She's not paying me for this. She hasn't asked me to do this. I just know you'll enjoy it, and so I just try to share good stuff with you. Her name is Karen Rontowski, Rontowski, Karen Rontowski. Her Twitter says Karen Rontowski, wife of Mothman. I retweeted her tweet about the fact that she is going to be at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club at MGM Las Vegas this week. Looks to me like tickets are about $43 a person. It's not just her, it's also, let's see. Oh, they timed me out. I was looking it up. Looks like it's going to be Karen as the headliner. How about that? Karen is the headliner, and then featuring Francisco Ramos and hosted by Jimmy Burns. Now, so yeah, $43 might be a little more expensive if you actually want to go up and sit in Karen's lap, but she might even pay you for that. Look, folks, she's a comedian. It's okay. So if you're interested, if you're in the Vegas area and you want to see a really funny show, BradGarrettComedyClub.com. That's spelled Garrett, Garrett, BradGarrettComedyClub.com. And you'll just go there and you'll find Karen Rontowski. There's a picture of her, the headliner at the MGM Grand. While we're talking about Vegas stuff, I told you, big news. The Creepy Vegas Ghost and UFO show is now expanding. Yes, we are going to continue doing Saturday nights at Millennium Fandom in downtown Vegas. Saturday nights at 7 p.m., but those are only for ages 21 and up. So I am now adding a second night for the Creepy Vegas event, and this is at a location on the Las Vegas Strip. This is going to be Wednesday nights, starting Wednesday, March the 4th. Also 7 p.m., but this time it's for all ages. So if you go to creepyvegas.com, you can now choose if you want to come on a Wednesday night or a Saturday night, and to what location. But I am raising the prices very soon, and well, you can see why. We're expanding, we're popular, we can do it, we're doing it. It's not cheap to operate in this town, especially when you're operating something on the strip as well. So creepyvegas.com will give you all the information. And because, hey, before, if you weren't in town on a weekend, on a Saturday night, you weren't going to see it. Now you have that weeknight option as well. And a lot of people just come to Vegas during the week because it's less hectic and you get better prices on rooms and everything. Creepyvegas.com. And then let me remind you, this May 29th and 30th of 2020 is my last conference ever. Finding Your Magic 2, also here in Las Vegas. Finding Your Magic 2. I don't know if we have any tickets left, but even if we don't, if you go to youwillmanifest.com, you can still read the Finding Your Magic ebook and see some cool information from when we did this the first time. But if we have any tickets left, it'll either say sold out or available. If you go to youwillmanifest.com, right there at the top of the page, you can click the link that will take you to the information about the upcoming event, May of 2020. And let me tell you, people ask me, again, why is this going to be your last one? Well, I've been doing events, big events, since I was in my early 20s, all over the country, all over the world, cruises, expeditions. It's very time consuming. I can't obligate myself to such a time commitment anymore. So this is going to be it. Finding Your Magic 2. I hope to see you there. youwillmanifest.com. All right, so there's lots of fun stuff going on in Vegas, and there you have it for now. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Lots of other fun stuff to do. Soon I'm going to have Karen Rontowski on the show and interview her and play some of her comedy, some other comedy for you. I have just a lot of fun stuff planned. So go to joshuapwarren.com. Check out the link to the Curiosity Shop, where you just never know what new things I'm going to be adding. I'm going to be adding some new stuff soon. And then click the link to this podcast, Joshua P. Warren Daily. Always short, always free, commercial free, independent, uncensored. Subscribe through various means, or just follow me on Twitter at Joshua P. Warren, and I usually tweet when a new one is available. So that is it for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your interest and support. Thank you for staying curious. And I will talk to you again soon.